Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse, and in today's segment, I'm actually going to start doing some segments called car vlogs. And the reason for this is that I get a lot of requests from people to, give my opinion on different matters, and sometimes the format isn't necessarily one of medical issues per se, but I've been given a brain, I've been given a voice, and I think I should use it. So that's what I'm going to do. And first off, I'm going to remove the neck strap from the camera view so you can actually see, and then it's going to not, of course, cooperate with me. Stay, do what you're told. Do what you're told, neckband. Stay where you're supposed to. So what I'm sure you've noticed probably within the past few weeks is that there's a lot going on internationally, and it's not just people in the preparedness community that are noticing this. There are a lot of folks around the world who are in turmoil right now in their different countries. There are a lot of leaders around the world who are noticing, hey, we are really in a level of unprecedented uncertainty and instability from a global standpoint here. And this is manifesting in a few different ways. First off, from a monetary standpoint, Russia and China keep tiptoeing further and further and further and further towards dropping the dollar for use in international transactions. What happens right now on many, how shall we say this? If somebody wants to buy oil, they first have to convert their money to dollars first, because it's sort of like the dollar is the accepted international currency. It's the accepted currency for trade. And so what a lot of countries do before they will make a transaction is they'll switch into dollars first. They'll take their home currency and switch it into dollars first. And people are starting to back away from this more and more. That in and of itself isn't necessarily concerning, but the thing that we have to understand is that most of the dollars right now, the paper dollars, like the bad boys right here that we have in our wallet, these bad boys right here, most of them that are printed are in circulation not in this country but overseas. And where this starts to become a problem is when a lot of these countries start to slowly unhook off of the dollar. I think they're doing it slowly. I mean, I'm not an economist. I'm not just going to sit here and say, oh, I'm Patriot Nurse, I know the way for economics. I'm just going to give you my thoughts because, hey, that's kind of the point of YouTube. When we see that a lot of these countries are unhooking from the dollar, we have to understand that a lot of other countries are still holding quite a bit of their former value in United States currency, right? Whenever they're fixing to switch over into dollars, they have to first take their money and their purchasing power and put it into ours. And what happens is, as more and more of these dollars are in circulation, more and more of these dollars are not being used for international transactions. That is going to drive down the purchasing power of those dollars that are already in circulation. And this is kind of a complex issue. It's not as simple as I think folks would like it to believe, or would like to believe it is. Central banking stuff is a little bit bizarre, and I don't claim to understand it all, but I think that we can safely say that for the dollar, the outlook is not good. And there's a reason why I say this. If you look at Rome in its latter days, we are experiencing many of the same issues that Rome did. First off, we cannot or will not secure our borders here at home. That's a problem from a security standpoint, from a tax-based standpoint, from a social services standpoint. We can't secure our borders here at home. Another thing that we're having issues doing is securing our borders internationally of our empire. And Rome had these issues too, whether it's ISIS or Al-Qaeda or whatever group that is interfering with our ability to maintain the proxy governments that we've set up. It looks curiously similar to what Rome was undergoing. And something else too, Reed Hendricks gave a marvelous lecture at Tactical Response for Alumni Weekend. And he was talking about some of the issues that were present in the decline of the Roman Empire. And one of the things that was noted by many of the great minds of the day was that there was an almost universal decline in virtue. And I think we're seeing that here in the United States as well. And it may be just a subjective observation on my part, but to me, I've noticed that people are certainly less kind They are far more rude, far more... aggressive isn't quite the right word. I think just careless of other people. I think the internet has certainly had a lot to do with this, because really what we've taught people over the past 15 years or so, since internet became almost universally accessible here in the United States, and since people have been putting their thoughts out there, people are basically able to operate with impunity online. They are able to be rude, to be condescending. They are able to get away with stuff that they would never get away with in real life. Threats against people, personal threats against their own security. And I've experienced this just from being up here on YouTube. You know, and the thing is, it's not happening in isolation. This is happening on the larger picture here within our country. Our people are not becoming more moral or more virtuous. If anything, we are slipping in that. Regardless of how you want to define it, even if you choose to use just a very humanistic, broad spectrum analysis of morality and of virtue, it's slipping. People are certainly having less care for their fellow humans in our country, for sure. I can't speak to the global stance on this, but just from what I'm seeing, I'm pretty darn sure of it. So what does that mean for us here? What does that mean for the average person, for the average mom who's shuttling her kids around and, you know, taking them to different camps, soccer practice, getting ready for school? What does that mean for us here? I think it means that we have to take, number one, more ownership for our own personal security from a defense standpoint, from an interpersonal violence standpoint, but also we need to take more ownership for the security of our families and of meeting our own basic needs. If you can meet your basic needs outside of having to go up and out of your safe zone, up and out of your home or your house, your whatever, that's going to serve you better. And I think we're seeing right now a reflection of a lot of the pent-up frustration. People are angry right now. They are looking for an excuse to fight. Look at the riots in St. Louis. Toledo, there was a water shortage a while back, and you know, people were getting violent over water. Well, clearly, I mean, that's kind of a duh thing. If you are faced with being thirsty and not having the assurances that your public works are going to be effective and, you know, working as you had hoped they would, then yeah, I can understand why people would riot. But I think, and I'm sorry to say this, guys, not to be a Debbie Downer here, but I'm a realist here, and some people may call that pessimistic. I think the golden days of our country are long gone. And I don't think that being a patriot means that you have to continually be a cheerleader for your country instead of recognizing that there are issues here. And it's not enough for me just to stand up here and pontificate about this. I mean, there are practical application points for us in our lives too. The way that my patriotism translates is that I try and take care of people when I can. Take care of my neighbors, take care of those who are in need of help, widows, orphans, the vulnerable people in our population. I think when it comes right down to it, being a patriot is to love your fellow man, and those in closest proximity are usually our countrymen, right? So loving people and taking care of people as best as we can. And I believe also a part of being a patriot is being able to look a bull square in the face and say, we got issues. And in many ways, I think the changes in our country are paralleling the 1960s, except, you know, the social changes, the upheavals, the moral changes, the expectations of national service and duty, those things changed drastically in the 60s. But I believe, despite all of the assassinations and the terrible things that were happening, it wasn't just all sex, drugs, rock and roll, and love, guys. I mean, there was a lot of significant instability in our country. The thing that was underpinning a lot of this, of the stability, was our dollar. We hadn't switched off the gold standard yet. There was a reasonable set of expectations of continuity in currency, at least from my brief understanding of history. I haven't been on the earth that long, and certainly not as long as some of you. But, God, that sounded terrible, didn't it? I am so young, and y'all are old. That's not what I'm going towards. But this is different. This is different. So rather than blow smoke at you and say, oh, we're gonna round the corner here and just give it a few more years, I just don't buy it, guys. I think that we as a people lack virtue. We as a people are careless towards our fellow man, and we have become crude and bloodthirsty in many ways. And I don't see a positive outlet for that. If anything, I think that it will become easier in times of civil unrest for people to turn on each other. So I hope that's not the case. But I think it highlights the importance of talking to your neighbors and of building a strong relationship with your neighbors if you can. I don't think that everybody's neighbors are perfect, right? But at least if you can have conversations ahead of time and try to build cooperative relationships with your people, that's going to serve you, okay? I think it's going to serve you well. So that's all for the car vlog today. That's all for the car thoughts. I've got to figure out what to name this, upcoming series of segments here. I really think best when I'm in the car. And I'm at the point right now where I'm not going to censor things for people. I think the hour is late here. And I'm not gonna blow smoke at you and tell you everything's okay, because it's not. And it's not time to panic, but I think we gotta be diligent now, because there are things that are heating up and we need to pay attention. So, hope it was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed the video today, please subscribe to me, like me on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter. And for now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I will see y'all later. Bye.